V'anoichi hasta aster panai. It's a b'china von Anoichi hasta aster panai b'yom hahu. It's a beseder. It's all good. Okay. I hope everybody remembers yesterday's shir. Huh? You're saying it wasn't a shir, it was a fabrengen. Okay, so we're up to the middle of Se'iv Vav of the Purim Maimer. Purim Tavshin Yud Beis, the middle of Vav, which is page... Yeah, we went 16 on top. Page 16 on top. Okay, today's class is, welcome everybody. Afreilich in Tainas Esther and Afreilich in Purim. Today's class is dedicated by Carmen Rachel Telez. Carmen Rachel Telez, in memory of Reb Chaim ben Reb Hillel. Tehei Nishmasei Tzrura, B'tzroid HaChaim. And thank you very much. May his soul be an eternal source of light and love and empowerment. The class is also dedicated for a complete and speedy recovery to Micha Hillel ben Dvorah, and dedicated by Fegi Miller in honor of his complete and speedy recovery. Amen. La'richus yamim v'shanim tovus. The class is also graciously sponsored by Gail Levin in memory of her dear mother, Chaya Fradel, Bas Reb Shmuel, and Bas Gittel on her yahrzeit, which is on Purim. Wow, what a yahrzeit. May she be a source of joy and inspiration to you and the whole family. Tehei nishmasei tzrura b'tzor hachaim, and thank you very, very much for your partnership. Okay, so yesterday we discussed at length the whole concept of isis, right, of words which become letters, which become words, which become sentences, which become paragraphs, chapters, books. Both verbal communication and even communication through thought, which is also communication, even though it's more subtle, but there's also isis. We discussed the whole process of the hishtalshelus, how even though isis on one level are delivery boys, meaning, or girls, they're just instruments of communication. So I have an idea or I have a feeling and I want you to know about it. So I need to formulate it in some container. It's packaging and it's a delivery process. Yeah, you talk about wordsmiths, they know how to put together good packaging. And we see practically some people could speak and speak nonsense. You could say something and say nothing. You could say nothing and say a lot. So on one level, isis are very external. A person could memorize all the words and all the letters and know nothing, understand nothing of the substance. Some people have a very deep understanding, but sometimes with words they have a difficulty, etc. So that's on one level. It's true that isis are really just containers to articulate a feeling or a concept in a certain form, which allows it to be delivered to the other person. You can't see my feeling. You can't experience my awareness. So this is the instrument of communication. Even in thought, it's communication with myself. It's communication, it's speaking to myself, right? That's thought, speaking to myself, which is always what you need to do before you speak to others, hopefully. Because if you speak to yourself before you speak to others, you know what you're going to say. You know what you're going to say to them. So isis HaMachshava and isis HaDibur work together, even though one is much more abstract and more subtle and more internal. And that's the metaphor for Olam HaBriya, and Dibur is the metaphor for Olam HaYitzira. So that's on one level, and it's true. But the whole Maimer here is explaining that isis really originates from a place that's deeper than the revelation of the Midas, and even the revelation of the Seichel, of the awareness. As he says, it comes from Kadmos, from Etzem HaNefesh, from a core subconscious space. And the way it's manifested, even in consciousness, it comes from Kadmos HaSeichel, means the origin of Seichel, which is Chachma, which is Bittul. So on one level we say, in order to reveal your Seichel and Midas to the other or to yourself, you need isis. On a deeper level we say, Seichel and Midas are here in order to bring out the Isis. Because the Isis can only be activated and manifested as containers for Seichel and Midas. And he explained that in Chacham everything is coherent and one. Isis is all about diversity and finiteness and separation and fragmentation, including contradictions. And that's why only when the Chachma flows through the Seichel and the Midas, where there's Chesed and Gvura and there's room for diversity and contradiction, then there can ultimately emerge the Isis. The same is true also. It's true by the person, and we always say the person is in the image of Hashem, so whatever is true in the person is only a metaphor, it's a mirror of the way it is Lamaila by Hashem in the whole concept of Seder Ishtalshalos. That basically, we spoke about Atzilus as the interface. From there you have Chachma as the first Sphira, you have Seichel, and then you have Midas, and then you have Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, which is Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya. So Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya relative to Atzilus are like Isis relative to Seichel and Midas. Right? And we see also Seichel and Midas is the internal makeup of a person. Isis is just communication. In fact, people could say things that they completely don't identify with. It's called hypocrisy. Hypocrites, con artists. And even if they're not con artists or hypocrites, but people could speak and completely not identify. They may not feel what they're saying. They may not even understand what they're saying. Certainly they're not identifying with what they're saying. So what's called words are cheap. What does it mean words are cheap? You could say because hakanat shaynik. You know what a hakanat shaynik is, yeah? You know why it's called hakanat shaynik? Huh? It makes a lot of noise. So a hakanat shaynik, what's the mean? Yeah, he's striking the kettle in English. He's striking the kettle. So sometimes Moshe doesn't know what he's saying, or nobody else knows what he's saying, or he barely knows what he's saying. But sometimes a person could say something completely don't believe in it. They don't identify with it. Why are they saying it? Either because they're deceptive, or maybe they're not deceptive. They're just maybe in a position where they have to talk about things. So they're saying. So l'chayr in that sense, so that's why Isis are outside of Isis are in that sense outside of the person. And that's what Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya is. Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya is where there's a beginning of a world that is, so to speak, outside of the Ein Sof. In Atzilus, it's Iyu v'chayayichat, Iyu v'garmayichat. He's one with the spheres. So really, therefore, in Atzilus is the expression of Ein Sof, and that's why it's the interface. Bria, Yitzira, Asiya are called Isis because Bria is Taka Machshava, Yitzira is Dibur, Asiya is Maisa. But the common denominator is over there's something called Yesh. And that could happen only through Isis, because what's Isis? Isis forces even abstract ideas into a form. That's why it's hard for people to communicate. Sometimes you have an idea, you have a feeling, but you don't know how to communicate, because Isis takes a lot. It's taking all this energy and expansiveness, and it's really defining. Isis are always definition. You can't, letters are made up of structures. They are containers. There's no choice. You know, when you want to write something down, sometimes you ask people to write it down, and it forces them actually to go much deeper into the concept. Because, you know, the gibberish in the brain, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Say it, say it, say it. Articulate it, write it. It's a different koyach. Some people get very, very stuck there. You could see, you try it. Take any concept that you're experiencing and say, let me write it down. Or even let me communicate it to somebody clearly, somebody who doesn't know about it. It's a different challenge, because you really have to start from scratch. Because you're dealing with the outside. And when you're dealing with the outside, even in yourself, certainly with somebody else, the containers are what carry everything. And that's why, in spiritually speaking, Bri, Yitzira, Asiya are compared to Isis relative to Atzilus. And then he continued in Sivav, that based on everything we learned, that the whole system of creation is depending on the human being and his or her avodah, and their learning of Torah and the observance of mitzvahs. As the pasuk says, Anochi asisi aretz, v'adam aleha barasi. I made an eretz, a earth, and Adam I created on it. Adam is every Adam, and barasi is the gematria of Taryag 613. So therefore, when the avodah of a person is with full presence, it creates a flow in the entire system that is aligned. Atzilus, the Ein Sof flowing into Atzilus, so to speak, into Chachma and Seichel and Midas And Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, Machshava, Dibra, Maisa, just like by a person where there's alignment. So Kol HaNikra B'Shmi V'Lichvaydi, all the way down to Afasisiv. And he says, generally, this is what the Beis HaMikdash represents. We spoke at length, the time of alignment, and therefore things are more revealed, more clear. There's exposure. Even the evil, the negativity is exposed. And as the Medrash says, they davened, and there was a response. Hayunenin. Whatever the response is, people ask, what, there was always a response. A response doesn't necessarily mean it was yeah. But there was a response means there was a clear relationship. There was what's called synchronization. You know, when you sync computers, it's connected. When the computer stops syncing, it's like, what happened? You're out of the system. You fell out of the system. That was a metaphor for you. For the computer people. For the computer geniuses, which I know nothing about. But I know that the syncing sometimes stops. And then I have to call Nehemiah to find out why did this computer fall out of the system. So he explains, because there's some gap between Atzilus, Bri, Yitzira, Asiya, something got broken over there. A blockage. And sometimes it's a physical wire, and sometimes it's, or it's called a virus. Yeah, a trauma. I guess a virus is called trauma. Yeah, but the disassociation, there's no flow, there's no communication. So he says, the Medrash Tillim. He says it's a very interesting Medrash Tillim Tzadik Aleph, Mizmah Tzadik Aleph. Hayim Mispalin V'Nenin. He says whether it was Ruchnius and Gashmius. He doesn't say the answer was yeah. He says They immediately saw there was the response from above. There was a response. In other words, cosmic oneness and cohesion was a reality. And by the way, that's why Avodah Zarah, I was telling somebody after the class, that's why Avodah Zarah was so tempting. Idolatry was such a temptation. You see that at the time of the first Beis HaMikdash in Tanakh, it took up so much space by the Jewish people that there were even Jews who, they had payas and they had a beard. I guess everybody did that. And they put on tefillin, and they kept Shabbos, and they ate kosher. They were following the mitzvahs of the Torah, the way it was in Bayis Rishon. They didn't have Purim yet. But they followed the mitzvahs. And yet Avodah Zarah was like a psah. It was something very, very powerful. Because Avodah Zarah wasn't just bowing down to a statue. Avodah Zarah was a spiritual experience without Hashem. The spirituality of life was so evident. That's why there were so many prophets. There was a school for prophecy. There was a way of learning prophecy, because embodying the higher energy was such a reality that it was a frequency that was available in the world. So if you didn't get it in Kedusha, you wanted to get it through other ways. You wanted to get that experience of enlightenment, of expansiveness. So they went to Avodah Zarah. Over there they offered very deep spiritual experiences, but without the morality, without the discipline, without the bittul, without the surrender. So this is all part of the same issue. But then you have Galus, which says, Chet doesn't only mean sin. The real word for chet is chisarin in Tanakh. It says about Shaul, he was shot arrow, he was a great archer, so he would shoot arrows. What's called, you hit the bull in the eye. Saida means even a hair, he could hit it. And he never missed. He never missed. It says also in Tanakh, Bathsheba tells David in Melachim, if Adoniyo becomes the king, me and my son Shlomo will be chatoyim. She doesn't mean we're going to be sinners. We're going to be missing. He's going to get rid of us. We're going to be, Adoniyo is going to kill his Bathsheba and kill Shlomo because she's a competitor. So the word chet, really, the shoyrish, it means chisaron. Lo yechta, he won't miss. It's missing the target. When you're misaligned, you're missing. You're not shooting in the right direction. You're not investing your energy. You're investing your energy like you have $1 million. Don't put it into a Ponzi scheme, because you're not getting interest, you're not getting any returns. You're going to lose the keren, you're going to lose the principal also. You're just losing everything. You have to know where to invest your time and energy. So that's what chet is. So he says, and avodas Hashem is missing. So then everything changes. So let's now continue weiter. The top of page 16. Ve'inyan zepol gam lamayla. This affects the entire system also lamayla, above. V'hainu, meaning kasher anhoga lamata isaboy from the ponaway lai oirev aloi ponim. Nisnasa ken gam lamayla shenistal kashbo mebchines pnimi yisamidus. When the anhoga lamata, Meaning, the behavior down here is in a way that the Navi says this in Yirmiyahu chapter 2. Panu elai oirev eloi panim. They turn their back to me and not their faces. You're facing me, but not with your face, with your back. Like you say in English, you turn your back on me. That comes from this pasuk. Panu elai oirev eloi panim. So this affects, so it's not just in the person. As we said, the person, the human being, is the link, is the axis upon which everything revolves. It's the hinge upon which everything is connected through that. The interlacing link between heaven and earth, like the ladder that stretches. The pasuk says, Yaakov chevel nachalase. So the Alter Rebbe teaches like a rope that connects the highest to the lowest, and when you sway, when you shake the rope on the bottom, it has a ripple effect on every level of the rope. And if this rope, imagine this rope is channeling the electricity, literally an electric wire, that's channeling the electricity all the way from Atzilus all the way to Asiya, right? Anywhere I make a dent in the rope, I cut the rope, I disconnect the rope, or whatever happens to the rope, I shake the rope, it has a ripple effect on every level. Why? Who am I? What? I'm just a little guy. What? A little guy who wants a coffee and can't have it because it's a fast day. I mean, what's the big? Why is it so dramatic? But when you understand that the whole Atzilus was a preparation, it was a hachana for there should be briya yitzir asiyah, for there to be the avodah, the relationship, and the presence of the person. So in that avodah, everything is dependent. So amela l'mayla nistalka ashpa mebchinas pnimiyis hamidus. So the panu elai oirev eloi panim, the flow from the pnimiyis hamidus, he's going to explain what that means, is departed or concealed. V'yuvon me'achilik sheben ha'pnimiyis panim la'achirayim oirev l'mata. To understand this, you could again go back to a person. We always mipsari echzelikai. Go back to the person. Go back to yourself. What's the difference between panim and oirev? Panim is the face. Oirev is the back. Right? Oirev is like the nape usually. Pare is oisius, says in the Alter Rebbe says pare is oisius ha'oirev. Says from the Arizal, the back, the nape. So what's the difference between panim and achirayim? Achirayim is the back, oirev, and panim is the face. One is called panim, which means pnimius, the inside, and one is called achirayim, the hind part. But panim yeshnam kol hagiluyim shebeguf adam. In the face, you see all the revelations of what's happening in the body. The whole body keeps the score. Everybody, even the cell in your pinky keeps the score. But where is the giluyim of the adam? Right? Where do I get to see a revelation? Look at somebody's face. That's where it's all concentrated. I start looking at your back, whatever, you'll see another back. You don't even see the differences between people, right? If everybody's lined up from the back, I mean, unless you really, if you know the beauty marks, or it's a mother who knows exactly her child, but generally, if you're coming as a stranger, you don't even know. And still it wasn't, Rabbi says that his hatzlacha in Torah was he sort of mayor from the back. Gemara in Erevin, and if he would have seen him from his face, it would have been bechlal, a different learning. He never sort of made his face. He sort of made his back, and that was also very powerful. So he says, "B'panim yeshlam kol hagelim beguvan sheshamu makom einayim haznayim hachotem hapeh shesham izgalim prehem izgalim chushi adam re'iyah shmiya reich tam v'dib." Over there is this place of the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth. It's all concentrated in the face, and over there are revealed the chushe, the skills, the talents, the gifts, and the characteristics of a person. The five senses, we talk about the five senses that pick up all stimuli. So you have re'iyah, seeing, and you have hearing, and you have smelling, and you have taste. And he says here also dibur, speech. He's not talking here about chosh hamishush, touching, because that's not connected necessarily to, you could touch things with your face, but with your hands usually you touch. But dibur, so seeing of the person, and the hearing of the person, and smelling of the person, and tasting, which is with the mouth, and speaking, which is the mouth, it's all in the face. The back, the oirev, the nape, it's the same head. It's just the other side. There's no revelation at all over there. The difference between them is felt even in the fifth sense, called chush hamishush, the sense of touching, which is considered the lowest chush the more concrete, the most physical, the most body kush. Interesting. In the oir aponim, the epidermis, the skin of the face, a person feels much more nuanced stimuli and subtle stimuli and more edel, more fine stimuli than the feeling in the back. Somebody gives you, a pat on the back, even a hard pat on the back, it's very different than when they do the same thing in your face. In the back, it's called friendship sometimes, right? In the face, it's called a frask, a patch. And it's much more sensitive also. It's more sensitive. It's more edel. The back is it's tough, it's tough. Simply pushed physically, biologically. The face is a much more edel place. It's more sensitive, and it's more sensitive to details, to nuance. Much more components, and they're edel. You have to treat them with subtlety. What does this all mean? Why is he saying this? When it says "Panu elai oirev eloi panim," so the way people teach it usually, you turn your back to me and not your face. Yeah, but l'chayra, when you say you turn your back on me, it means you're not interested in me. So why is the Navi saying "Panu elai oirev eloi panim"? So the Rebbe teaches the pshat different. Panu elai, you did turn to me, but you turned to me with your back, not with your face. Not pshat, you ran away. You didn't run away. Panu elai, but oirev eloi panim. What does this mean in avodah? What does it mean to show up to life with your face? And what does it mean to show up with your back? Shan hagi ba'ofen de panu elai oirev eloi panim. Hainu shenasa chas chisaron chas v'shalom behergesh hapnimi b'inyane kedusha v'inyane elikus. What becomes missing is the hergesh hapnimi. I would call it the internal, energetic, embodied feeling in kedusha and elikus, in holiness and godliness. As a substitute, a person needs passion. Everybody needs passion. You need to be excited about something to live. Nasa hergish vayislavus, he said in Yiddish, the zukochtkeit. What cooks you? Where do you simmer? Where do you come to life? In yanim chitzainim, in externalities. And it's always a choice. Either I'm alive with the frequency of oneness, that's where I'm alive, right? Which is really the only place where life exists, because einoid mulvade. But it takes work to be there. It's constant. And there's all the clippers and all the shells that create fast distractions, which in our days, that's called avodah zarah. What's avodah zarah? Avodah zarah doesn't mean worshipping a statue. Like we always speak about this. It says in Tanya, right? Avodah zarah means giving reality to anything outside of truth. Anything out of truth, that's what avodah zarah doesn't mean bowing down to a statue and taking a person and putting him on a pole and worshiping. That's old time avodah zarah. It's more crude. Real contemporary avodah zarah is much more sophisticated. Right? It's giving space and even a metzius to anything outside of the true reality, which is only one reality. Achdus Hashem. So panu elai oirev eloi panim means you're not present with your face. It's like I'm having a conversation with you, the classic, right? Your wife wants to talk to you and you're on your phone. I hear you. Your kid wants to play a game with you, yeah? But you're on your phone. I know, it's Monopoly. I know what to do the next move, yeah? Kids go crazy. You're in a restaurant, you're sitting and eating with them, you're doing something else. I'm talking to you and my back, I hear everything you say. So look at me. What's the difference? It's going into the same ears. The difference is not the words. The difference is the connection. There's no connection. I'm telling you basically there's something much more interesting than you in life. That's basically the point. That's what you're telling your wife. That's what you're telling your kids. You're interesting because I have no choice. I have to make believe you're interesting. But between you and me, if I could make a big Baruch Shepatrani on this conversation, or on this meeting, or on this game, I would make Hagoymel mit Simcha v'tov levov. And people do this instinctively because, let's face it, the phone, you're going to choose the clip you're going to go to, whether it's going to be me or Trump. You're going to choose the clip. With your wife, she's choosing the clip that she's going to talk to you about. So it's a different Indian. It needs a lot more. Your kids want to play their game, not your game. They don't want to watch your clip. You can't say another clip. If I get boring, you go to the next. Say that it's enough. Nachene, right? You don't like something, boom, next, boom, boom. Over here, what are you going to do? This is the game. You got to play. So panaway like oidav aloi panam is a very deep thing. You're turning. You're giving me time. Yeah, you're going with me. But there's no presence. And there's a reason there's no presence. This is not what's turning you on. You're not excited. You're here with your back, not with your face. V'hainu, and he explains it, he says it in a very powerful way. Kasher meduber b'inyan gashmi v'ruch chumri as a margish mashachasar lei. When it's speaking about something physical and material, something crass, something crude, chumri. Chumri is not just gashmis, it's chumrius, it's the coarseness of the world. A person is very well aware of what's missing. And it's negayat him that he's missing it. Mashenken be'inyan ruchni ve'inyan shel kedusha asiyasi ein ele mitzad ha'hechrich oy kemitzvus hanoshim elamada kivin shelimdoi aviv v'hirgile b'zeh. When it comes to inyan ruchni, when it comes to authenticity, when it comes to divinity, when it comes over here, missing, he's not missing, he's anyway, the whole thing is forced. Or even if it's not forced, because he's scared of punishment or social pressure or shidduchim or his kid's seminary or his wife, whatever it is. So maybe, but it's mitzvah sanashim alamad. Mitzvah sanashim alamad is a pasuk in Yeshaya. It means people do things mulamada. They've just learned it's part of habit. You brush your teeth in the morning. So he also puts on tefillin in the morning. He knows you have to get through shachris, mincha, ma'ariv, whatever. It's a checklist. Mitzvah sanashim alamad. He says limdei aviv. He had a father. His father trained him for yigilei bazah. And he doesn't have so much stubbornness and so much this to tear away. Say, fine, you do it. And there's a lot of benefits. And sometimes even the habit doesn't help. And the person ultimately, when things are just autopilot, so then you start, you neglect that also. So this is that the relationship of a person to life is on a very external level. And we're not talking here the practical reality. He may do, but it's the inner presence, as he says, the tzukachtkeit, the passion. You would think, a big deal. You're just a robot anyway. So the robot is more excited, the AI is more excited or less excited. What's the big deal? So he says it's not this way. For the embodied relationship with Hashem, this was the tachlis brias ha'olamas. So when this is missing, it's like in a relationship, like in a relationship with people. If it's all about the connection, the intimate connection, the fact that you take out the garbage every morning and you pay the bills, yeah? So you have the externals, obviously it's better than not, but the core of it is not present. The fire is not burning. Yeah. Matbeya shel eish, yeah? It's about machzis hasheker. Rashi says, Matbeya shel eish. The coin needs fire. The fire is not there. So now what happens? You're sitting with your spouse and you turn your back and you're on the phone. So what does she do? She takes out her phone. Yeah, as I used to say that. What is it? It's not nekama. There's no connection. You're not here. You're not here. I'm trying to get your attention. You're not here. So he says, since it's all totally in avoida, so instead of panim face to face, pnimius to pnimius, your face to my face to your face, it's kiyim ba'if and the haster aster panai. I'm still there, but my face is hidden. What's revealed? My back. So again, what does the back? The face represents the life of the person, the vitality of the person, the giluyim of the person. I see your soul in your face. You look into somebody's eyes, you could see a lot. You look at their panim, you see their pnimius. The back, they're there, but they're physically there. You don't see the passion. The soul doesn't come out there. The edelkeit, the depth of the person. So the question is, where's the depth of the person coming out? Where's your truth coming out? So now, this aspect of midas, what's midas? Embodied awareness in emotion. Emotions is always embodiment. That's what an emotion is, midas. But seichel is an awareness, and midas is the way it energetically actually affects you. You're feeling it. Where do you feel it? You feel it in your nervous system. You feel it in your bones. You feel it in your heart. Your heart expands. That's midas. It's excitement. Even a negative midah could be but it's passion. Once this is gone, so what happens? Remember to get to the oisius, machshava dibra maisa, as we explained. It goes through the midas, and then from there comes the focus on thought, speech, and action. That was the whole explanation before. Certainly doesn't get to dibur and maisa. And this is basically the cosmic and individual situation of galus, individually and collectively. So there's an element of disassociation. What do we mean by disassociation? When you speak about disassociation, it means that the core of the person and the person's outside are not connected. The wire is cut, and there's a suffocation over there because there's anxiety over there, because there's no connection, there's no flow. It's probably one of the most torturous elements in life, and it's so common today. To create association is a life's work. Association is it's always bringing you back, bringing your presence back into reality. We have hijackers 24/7. It's called a Yetzirah. It's called a Klippa. It's a hijacker, and it takes you. It wants your heart. It wants your soul. It wants your passion, and it does everything cleverly, right? Anxiety is a great one for Tainas Esther and Purim. That's a great one to hijack. Responsibility is a great hijacker. It's a good word. Responsibility is a good word, right? But the Klippa hijacks it. Everybody knows. You become so responsible that you're obsessive. There's no person here. Your responsibility, there's no person who's responsible. Responsibility is not flowing from you. The person is created by responsibility. It's just an example. Of course, stress, fear, whatever it is, every person in their own way, the different cravings a person has. But these are all hijackers that easily, and they do it like this in an instant. Because these are survival mechanisms that we developed over the years in order to be able to be alive in the world. And therefore you go certain places you go, and it's all in machshava. It happens very, very fast. Your machshavas are just there. The whole avodah of Chassidus is this avodah of going back to bringing yourself back. Going away from the hijackers and really taking back the territories that you gave away to the Arabs. Taking way back. That's what really it is. We give away shtochim, and you just get attacked. You don't gain anything by giving away territories. You don't get peace. You get war when you give it away. Because they're not interested in you. They just want to kill you. You give them more territory, they have more place to kill you. In avoid, it's also that way. You think I'll make a compromise. The moment you give away your shtochim, your territory, mental territory, physical territory, emotional territory, to the clip of the animal soul, I just get more. It becomes more problematic because their muscles grow. So it's really the constant avoid of not to go, not pon away lie, not to be not oidif but upon him. So b'shas there is this disassociation. The person's midas are just not there, which is the cosmic situation of galus. There's like a disconnect. So now what happens is, Lamaila, everything is changed as well. So you can have Atzilis and Kalanika B'Shmi V'Lechvaydi. But remember, the bridge to Oisius, to Machshava Dibra Maisa, always goes through the Midas, as we explained before. It's the emotions that bring out the Oisius. And by the way, when you say it, people wonder, what if I have an idea and I want to speak about it? You could speak about it. But if I'm speaking about it or I'm thinking about it, there's some emotion. I love intellect. I love the ideas. Whatever it is, there's some midas. So I say, Seinu loyde inu, when he says they daven and they don't see, he says, Ein royim shenenim. He doesn't say there's no response. He doesn't say that. Ein royim shenenim. They don't see the response. There is always synchronization. It's not like in the computers, but you just don't see it happening. Ein royim shenenim. It looks like there's no response.
I think that's why he says it's like machshava,
Yeah. He says, the lower you get, the more you sense the disconnect. And the reason is because the disconnect really is only from one side. It's not like the other side loses interest. That's why he says, "Ein royim shenenem." You can't feel the other person's presence because you're not there. When my child wants to talk to me or play with me, but I'm busy with something else, he will remain there for a long time. Your wife already knows better. But the child will remain there till the next time. Then the child is also gone. But he'll remain there for a while, especially babies, because they don't know not to expect your attentiveness. So they remain, they're present. But you don't know that they're present because you're not present. I can't feel your presence because you're not present. When I was a bacher, they told a story that there was once a Yid, an older Jew. He went on Yechidus to the Lubavitcher Rebbe for a private appointment. So usually people were there fast because there's so many people. So the Rebbe did it a whole night from like 8:30, and then it would go much of the night, sometimes till Alois HaShachar morning. So, and there was a lot of people, hundreds of people. So it was usually short. But sometimes, like prime ministers would come, presidents would come, or like, activists, who were running a lot of moistus, whatever, so they would stay longer. They had a lot of questions. But this Yid was like a Pasha Yid, I think, from Borough Park or something, a fine Jew, an older Jew. And he was there, and he was there a long time. So it was the secretary, there was always a secretary there, Rabbi Groner, Rabbi Chadakov, they were in charge, to make sure it's running. People go in, go out. So he decided to go in to check, was tut sich dort. So he goes in, and he sees the Yid is sitting on the chair, and he's sleeping. He's sleeping. And the Rebbe is working. So Rabbi Groner turned to the Rebbe and it's like, so the Rebbe ist reingekommen, hat sich weggesetzt, ist eingeschlafen. Soll schlafen? Was soll schlafen? Was soll ich immer wecken? Soll schlafen? Neue Gesundheit. He wants to use my room as a sleeping. Fine. He was completely not fine. Rabbi Groner woke him up and said, Rabbi, you understand, you can come to different situations. It's a good cheer. He fell asleep. Not in the presence of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, were you going to get such a geschmack of Adam asleep? His dreams were probably sweet and beautiful. Yeah. So I'm saying you could be in Kodesh HaKadoshim and you fall asleep. The Rebbe was present, but he wasn't present. So if you'd ask him what was going on, he said, I was sleeping. Yeah. They once asked a turtle if it remembers the Big Bang, 26 billion years ago, Kivayachal. The turtle said it all happened so fast. So everybody sees things from their perspective. So Mela, from his perspective, I'm disassociated. So I of course think you're disassociated. And that's the klal. When somebody is disconnected, they think everybody is disconnected.
They don't even realize disconnected.
Yeah. Hanoichi hasta, they don't realize that they're disassociated. Especially if they're very disassociated. That's what he means. When it comes to an Gashmi v'chumri, the person knows what he's missing. He doesn't know, he feels what he's missing. So egbertam. There's a sensitivity. Right? We said, where's the face, the place of sensitivity? The back is no sensitivity. You have people, for example, you have a person, it's just a lack of sensitivity. People that can eat everything on the table. They just don't feel the difference. It goes in from one side, it goes out from another side, hopefully, and that's it. There's other people, they're sensitive. They know this is productive, this is not productive. The same is true in life. People can have conversations, ploidering or gossip or slander for hours. They don't even notice it. Other people, if they're more sensitive, they know you just went into such a icky place. It's like it's I don't have another word, an icky place. I don't know how you say that in nice English. It's nauseating. Klippa is really nauseating because it's a place of disconnect, of emptiness. Nothing is real. Everything is a distraction. But you have to be sensitive for that. When you're sensitive, it's like a nauseating food. I'm not going there. Don't go into a cesspool. This is not a conversation for you. This is not a place for you. This is not for you. But it's a sensitivity. So there comes a situation when it comes to something physical or crass over here, the person is a very, very hypersensitive that he doesn't have it. He doesn't have this model, doesn't have this Indian, doesn't have this thing. When it comes to the pnimius of life, the real pnimius of life, elikos over there, the person just doesn't know the difference. If you don't understand what this Maimon is saying, this is exactly what he's saying. You heard what I just said? Like if what is he talking about? Was Vilsto? That's exactly his point. And it's not even a fault. It's simply a lack of awareness, a lack of sensitivity. When you're alive, you know what it looks like to be dead. When you're dead, you don't know what it looks like to be dead. Did you understand how brilliant that was? Okay. You have to be alive to know what it feels like to be dead. If you never were alive, you don't know what it means to be dead. But if you were alive even once, for a couple of hours, you know what it means to be dead. You just know what it means to be dead. And that's really what we're describing. And it's not external. Nobody else knows it. On the external, everything is fine. He's playing with his child. You're sitting in a conversation, but he's not there. So it's really a very, very deep, deep, energetic experience of presence. Now, this doesn't mean it's not a challenge. It's a very, very deep challenge. This is what Gullus looks like. There's Gullus collectively, but there's Gullus individually. So what happens now is, there's no connect. I'm not present. I don't feel that you're present. So it's mispalelin, but they're not in that frequency. The mispalelin is also disassociated. You're davening because there's a siddur in front of you, and you have to say Tillim every day for the hastadis, or Shir Amalis, or Makum Rasich Hashem, the same kapitel, and this. It's like a robot. Zion.
What does it mean
Van Hagazu, the way the person shows up, that creates, that's the whole point here. It creates the whole Hanhaga Lamaila also, because everything, the person is the axis, Yeah, so we'll see now. You'll say, fine, very good. So you describe the situation. So, but we are in Gullus. So what's the maskana here? To say that our forefathers were disassociated? Okay, yeah, we know that. Some of our fathers also, and some of us are all disassociated. So a person should not become despondent from this. A person shouldn't lose their spirits. And to become despondent from this is a shtus gadol. That's the greatest insanity. This is a lashon of the Alter Rebbe in the Maimer on Purim, Torah Megillah Esther, as he brings in the footnote. The Alter Rebbe says, when people get despondent because of this, it's a shtus gadol. That's a shtus. Kivon shalzel, because yes, we'll see. This is the whole in. Kivon shalzel. No, on this we say it's a pasuk in Yeshaya, speaking about the time of the Geula. So Yeshaya Navi says very interesting words. Avram lo yadanu, Yisrael lo yakirenu, ata Hashem avinu. Avram we don't know, Yisrael we don't recognize, but you're our father Hashem. That's what Yeshaya Navi says. And the Gemara in Maseches Shabbos has a whole sugya that Hashem is going to come to Avram Avinu and he's going to say, Shabbos Daf Peites, your kids sinned. So Avram Avinu is going to say, okay, so punish them. So he's going to come to Yaakov Avinu because he had Sar Gidul Bonim and he thinks it's going to be better. And he says, your kids sinned. So Yaakov is going to say, so punish them. So Hashem says, there's no wisdom in the old and there's no wisdom in the young. I'm going to go to Yitzchak Avinu. There's no wisdom in the old, and there's no wisdom in Dardaki, no wisdom in the young. I'm going to Yitzchak. So he comes to Yitzchak, he says, your kids sin, your children sin. So Yitzchak says, excusez-moi, my children? They're not your children? Kivayachal, he puts Hashem, my children? It's your children. And then he says, we'll split it, whatever, a whole cheshbon and Gemara. So the Gemara says, that's pshat, that la'asad love it, they're going to look at Avram and they say, you're not our father. Lo yadanu, we don't know. Yisrael lo yakin, and you didn't behave like a father. So it's a fascinating pasuk in Yeshaya that there comes a time Jews say we don't know Avram, we don't know Yisrael, which is Yaakov. Ata Hashem Avinu, you're our father. So the Alter Rebbe says, the lashon over there in the Maimer, that's a shtus gadol to become despondent. Why? Because this is the pasuk. Avram, I don't know, I don't recognize, I don't know. Yisrael, I don't recognize, but you're my father. Well, what's the shaykhis? For inyan baza, the hine klolus inyan hamidus maschil me Avram. Midas begins with Avram. Avram Avinu represents the beginning of the midas. Shenyanihu kava yamin v'kava chesed shreishes hamidas Avram is the embodiment of the right line, which is chesed, and chesed is the beginning of the midas. Kivan shebizman hagolus han hagibay from the panaway lai oidif l'chenini Avram lo yadanu. So al pi chassidus, what does it mean Avram lo yadanu? We don't have intimacy. Yadanu from the word das. Adam yada es chava. We don't have the experience of Avram. Adam yada es chava means Adam was one with Chava. Avram lo yadanu al pi pnimis hatayra means we don't experience the chesed. We don't experience the embodiment of love as an experience. Lo yadanu, you need das for that. We don't have the Avram. Okay, this is the Gemara Maseches Shabbos. This is the Gemara Daf Peites Avram lo yachal lo hagin. That Avram couldn't protect the Jewish people. So that's the Gemara says. But what is it al pi pnimis? What is it Avram couldn't protect the Jewish people? Because there was no connection. There was a disassociation. So in Mela, for my energy to protect you, you have to have that energy. There was like this disconnect. So that's how he's teaching. Not sure Avram was chas v'shalom not kind suddenly. He forgot about the Jewish people. Avram is like the symbol of love. See, it's very interesting how he says Avram lo he couldn't, because there's a disconnect, right? If I'm on the telephone with you and you knock down the telephone, I can't continue talking to you. You can't get the energy. The wire was cut off. To be able to get Avram's energy, you have to be in that frequency of Avram. Al derech ze Yisrael lo yakirenu, the Yisrael koyal ze erampin shuklolos hamidus. Yaakov Yisrael represents the 6 midas, the general 6 midas, which is called Zah in Kabbalah. And again, we don't recognize, we don't have a hakara in the midas. But don't fall, don't have an affiliate, don't get despondent, because you're my father. What's pshat? V'hainu, what's avinu? Avinu is chachma. Av, we know Av is chachma, Ima is bina. Because the father gives like the seed of life, and the mother further, the mother develops it. The seed meets the egg, and the mother develops it into a zygote, and into a fetus, and into an embryo. So it's like Chachma is the Barak HaMavrik. It's like the, in Halach it says Zera is Yorek HaChetz. It like shoots like an arrow, the Zera, the seed. So that's like Chachma. It's a mashal for Chachma. And then the mother takes it and develops it. That's why Chachma is called the father, Abba, and Bina is called the mother. And Midas are the children. When the father and mother have intimacy, you can have children. So that's Chachma Bina Das produces Midas. What does that mean, children? There's Ava and there's Yira. Right? There's male children, there's female children. But that's the result of awareness. When awareness comes and is embodied and produces children that are alive, that's Midas inside a person. So Avram I don't know. Yisrael I don't recognize. Ki ata Hashem Avinu. What's ata Hashem Avinu? There's still ha'aras chachmei Allah. Av shechaser ha'memutza the b'chinas Avram v'Yisrael. Even though you're missing the bridge, the memutza, the interface, the intermediary of Avram and Yisrael, so that the chachma should flow through the midas into the Isis. We explain that Isis are always there, but Isis are embedded in the subconscious. What allows the Isis to be revealed? This is the whole explanation. What allows the Isis to be activated? You need the memutza of midas. Awareness itself, chachma itself, is a coherent nikud, a bittul. It's only when it starts flowing through awareness and then emotion, and then there's the Isis all around it, attaining it, to achieve it, etc. Aval is havus ha'Isis atzman, he dafke mitzat b'chinas chachmei la, the Abba Yasad Brata. The Isis themselves don't come from the midas. They come from where? From chachmei la. The father makes the daughter. Abba Yasad Brata, meaning the father is the foundation of the daughter. We spoke that there's a special relationship, it's a lashon of Zohar, between father and daughter. Ish mazriat chili yeledus nekeva. There's something special that daughters get from fathers that they can't get from mothers, and fathers connect to daughters in a special way. Today they even know the way a father builds the esteem of a daughter is very, very crucial to the development of the girl, because if not, she's looking for the same attention, but from other sources, which are usually not very productive and healthy. So even emotionally, psychologically, you see that a father could give something to a daughter because he's male, because he's a father, he's not the mother. The mother obviously gives what the mother gives. But there's something about the father, a certain shtel, a certain confidence in her own self, in her body, in her neshama, in her beauty, in her appreciation and respect of self that comes from the father. That's why it's so important for fathers to be close with their daughters. Fathers don't always realize. They think my sons have to be mechanech. Your sons, you have to be mechanech. Your daughters, you have to be close with, and your sons. Obviously, everybody. But I'm saying the attachment of a father and a daughter is a very crucial element in development from a very young age. For both, yeah. I've read once a very interesting study about daughters who have a good relationship with their father and daughters that don't. It can affect very deeply. So al pi Kabbalah, it's that way. Abba Yasad Brata. What is it in Avodah? In the union of Pnimius? It's the union that Chachma is the source of Isis. Malchus, femininity is Isis. Like we spoke yesterday about women's communication is different than men's communication. Malchus is Dibur, Malchus Peh. Malchus is the source of Bri, Yitzir, Asiya. And that's all rooted in Chachma. Like we said, all the Isis come from the subconscious of the soul, and it's manifested in Chachma. That's where the Isis come from. So they're revealed through Seichel and Midas. But where the Isis created, where this Havas Isis, that's in Chachma. ולכן אף שבזמן הגולוס חוסר הממוצע דניין המידע שזהו עניין אברהם וישראל, ומשום זה אין איסיס בהסגלוס, אבל מכל מקום הרי עתה אבינו, שזוהי בחינס חכמי לה שבו לא שייך עניין הגולוס, וגם בזמן הגולוס לא יכולים להגיע לבחינה זו, שהיא השרש שמקלס הבס האיסיס, אלא שאין זה בגילוי. So this is the chiddush that even in Galus, where you're missing the mamutza of the midas, or at least it's not as emphasized. So Avram and Yisrael, we don't have that connection with. So the Isis are not revealed. But Ata Avinu. Ata Avinu means the Chachmei law remains in perfect tact, because over there Galus is not Shaykh. In Chachma there can't be Galus. There's no Galus in Chachma. Like it says in Tanya, all the Kaiches of the soul could go into Galus. All of them. Chachma could be asleep. It can be dormant. You don't have access to it. But it's not in Galus. It can't be hijacked. Bina could be hijacked, Das could be hijacked, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, everything could be hijacked. And it could serve the enemy. When you're in Galus, you're in exile, and you're like in prison, you're serving the enemy. They can have them do work. Chachma, they can't hijack. Why? Because Chachma is bittul. Chachma is the place of Ein Sof, like it says in Tanya, Perikit Ches, that's the Koyach HaMunah. It's the place where the Ein Sof is living in the person, so it can't be hijacked. It could be asleep, meaning I have no access to it. It's subconscious. It's dormant. And then there comes a moment in life when the Chachma emerges, and then there's no questions. You know exactly who you are. You know exactly what you choose. You know exactly what you're loath. So in Chachma Ilah, and just like in Chachma down here, there's not Shaykh in Hagalos. So b'meila, the Isis weren't compromised, because all the Isis are there. Without the Midas in a revealed way, we don't have the channel for the Isis to be revealed. But the entire back end of the Isis, the core of all the Isis, are we are in Chachmei La. So Avraham lo yadanu, Yisrael lo yakirenu, but ki ata Hashem avinu. And over there's no galus. Chachma could never be hijacked. Even the animal soul, it says in Tanya, Perik Yud Ches, you test the Klippa, can hijack everything and use it, because everything else has a Metzias. But Chachma, the Metzias of Chachma is that it has no Metzias, it's bittul. So if it's not bittul, you can't hijack it. It doesn't lend itself to be hijacked. There's nothing to hijack. So and since the Isis, as we explained, they're embedded in Chachma. They originate in Chachma. That's where their Hisavus is. Although they come out through the intermediary Seichel and Midas, other channels. In the beginning, we all thought that Isis are channels. Now we're learning, no, Seichel and Midas are channels. Seichel and Midas are channels to give you access to the Isis that come from a place that's deeper. Because without Seichel and Midas, you usually don't have access to the Isis. But really the Isis are in Chachma. So Mele, even when there's Avraham lo yadanu v'Yisrael lo yakirenu, ki ata Hashem avinu. You wanted to ask something? V'zeh shal zman hagolus nemer rak oiseisenu lo yira'inu. That's why the pasuk in Tehillim speaks about Galus. It says our oisos, meaning our signs. But now he's teaching oiseisenu also as oisius. Oiseisenu lo yira'inu. We don't see the Isis. We don't see the signs. Isis are like Isis and Mofsim. Hainu she'ena kavana she'en nisim. It never says the pasuk in Tehillim about Galus, Oiseisenu lo yira'inu, that there's no nisim. It says in Tehillim, Kapitel Ayin Dalet, he's talking about exile. Oiseisenu lo yira'inu ve'eini tanu yedeya adma. Lama elikim tishasu l'netzach. So he says, it doesn't say there's no miracles. He says we don't see it. Kediyuk lashon Hazal, the diyuk of Chazal and Meseches Nida, ein balanes makir b'nisai. There's miracles that the one with whom the miracle happened, he's not makir. He doesn't recognize his miracle. What does it mean he doesn't recognize it? The mashmau is saying he sheyesh nisim, ela shechaseda hakadas hanisim. The miracle is happening, constant. The difference is he's not makir b'nisai. There's no recognition, and therefore there's no appreciation, there's no gratitude. Because he's dull, he's numb, eshlaft. It's like a corpse. He doesn't have that wiring to experience what's happening. And there's a reason for it. The nisim are not revealed. It's miracles, and if you want, you could just say, this is how life works. This is how life works. You can always find an explanation, b'darkei hateva. In other words, it's eclipsed, it's camouflaged. It gives the person an opportunity to say, everything is just nature. Vanish nispal. That's what it means. That's what giving up. That's what despair is. It's just, it's the same thing. Despair, what's despair? It's just a cycle of life. It goes like this. It goes like this. Just goes like this. Around and around, like a merry-go-round. How long can you be on a merry-go-round? You know, you go on the horses and the amusement parks around and around and around and around. Goes a little up and down to give it a little excitement. At some point, I'm done, huh? Yeah. It gets nauseous. In other words, that's the point. What are you getting excited about? Yeah. In nature itself, there's two ways. You have nature itself. Hashem created a world to function. It has its ecosystem, it has its climate changes, it has its gravity. It says in Parshas Noach, the time to plant, the time to harvest. It's cold and warm. It's winter, summer, winter, day, night. Lo yushbaisu, it never stops. Sun rises, the sun sets. It's a gate. And that's exactly how we survive. If these systems were not in place, the earth, the planet could not support any life. We wouldn't be able to exist. So these are the systems, what's called teva. And it's crazy, insane to understand the dynamics at play to make this happen. You know, we take it for granted. Of course the sun is out. Where should the sun be? Right? But that's our stupidity that we take it for granted. We take everything for granted. Of course there's grass. What should the grass do? Quit? But there's not a prat, there's not a detail that's not absolutely intricate and orchestrated and designed. And for all the factors to happen randomly, simultaneously, is the biggest shtus in the world. But that's all structures of life that follow. They follow a pattern. Lo yushbais. Shegam zeu mitzad ratzon habayre. Don't think for a minute that this is stam. Autopilot, cruise control, artificial intelligence. This is all the will of the Creator. Shazau shelakim b'gematria hateva. The gematria of the word hateva, nature, which is 86, is elikim. In other words, even teva is all elikim. It's nothing else. Ela shemitzad ha'hergel shebezeh shegilum liris davar zeh b'chol yem b'chol eis b'chol zman efshel l'shkoich lefi shoshes ha'inyan shel halakus v'lachshav she'elam obida b'lei manik chas v'shal. But because we're so used to it, it's things you see every day and literally every moment. So it's very easy to forget temporarily that it's all an inyan of halakus. It's all a manifestation of the Ratzon HaBorei, and you think it's a palace without a manig, without a leader. Chas v'shal. There's something else in nature. Nisim hamalubashim b'teva. In teva itself, there's two things. There's nature, which is also a lakus, but you're just used to it. Like the Baal Shem Tov used to say, the definition of teva is a miracle that happens constantly. The Baal Shem Tov's of art. I think it's also in Shal Shechuvas Chacham Tzvi. That what's the definition of nature? It's just a miracle that happens constantly. So we give a name nature, because really the name nature is a joke. What makes it nature? So he says it just happens constantly, so you forget that it's elikus. If it would happen once in 100 years, the sun would come out. Everybody would be up for sunrise, like Birchas Hachama. Once in 28 years, nobody misses it. But really Birchas Hachama is every day. Yotzei HaMoedes. But the truth is, so that's one inyan in teva. The second inyan in teva is nisim hamalubasha b'teva. It's a miracle, taka miracle, but it's enclosed in teva. Miracles that you don't see with flesh, with the fleishik, with your eyes of flesh, but you need to use your mind's eye. You have to use a deeper eye, a deeper vision. Kamay hanes de Purim. Purim is an example of this. Shesiviv kama sibis. Hashem caused many different factors. V'hiktzif avadim al adonayim. And he angered avadim, servants, on their masters. Lasas hanes b'maisa biksan v'sedesh. So biksan v'sedesh should decide to assassinate Achashverosh. Varigas Vashti, and Achashverosh decided to kill Vashti. Ulakichas Esther, and then he decided to take Esther. Chuli, everything, the whole process. Shezau nes shalamayla me'ateva. Rak shemislabish ba'ateva. Ve'ein alamayla me'ateva, nida be'ein bas, ene bas, enak be'ein yasech. It was a whole nest beyond nature. But it was melubish in nature. Meaning it was a miracle. It wasn't the sun. The sun coming up in the morning is also a miracle. But it's a miracle that became part of the structure and the fabric of reality, how God set up the system. Setting that up is a miracle, and the fact that it's maintained is a miracle. But we're calling it teva because it's a system. But here he's saying something else. Sometimes you have a ness. It's mamish a miracle. It's out not al pi teva. It's not oilam kiminagene, but it's melubish b'teva. What does it mean melubish b'teva? It has a lavush, like a hand in a glove. What does it mean it has a lavush in teva? If you want to be an action, if the New York Times was reporting the Purim story, yeah, what would they say? They would say, look, the Jews were in the right time in the right place. It happens to be, when you look at the story of the Megillah, we read the Megillah, we think it happened in 20 minutes, the story. The story took 12 years. If you're lucky, 20 minutes. If you're not lucky, 45 minutes. Fine. But it didn't happen in 45 minutes. It didn't even happen in a year. It happened in 12 years. It was a long time that it happened. The Gzeira was only B'shnas Yud Beis L'Malchusay. Esther was taken B'shnas Sheva L'Malchusay. Vashti was killed B'shnas Shalosh L'Malchusay. So it said it was a long, long process. So if you were living it, what did you see? You were at a party, and the king is drunk, and he killed his wife. So what would everybody say, the headlines? I'm a shugana. That's it. That's the story. Where's their miracle? On the contrary, it's not a miracle. It's a crazy king. What's coming next? What's coming today? He's nice to you. He was also nice to his wife, and he killed her. So what happens next? Who is he going to kill tomorrow? Where's a miracle here? Now he starts searching for women. Esther is now kidnapped and abducted. That's a miracle? It's a tragedy. You understand? When you're looking at the story, all you see is isolated events. Biksan Vaseresh want to kill Achashverosh. Okay, I also want to. Fine. They're caught.
They didn't invent sliced bread.
Yeah. Where's the miracle here? Esther told it over to him, B'Shem Mordechai. And then suddenly you have a Hitler, a Haman, Yamach Shemai getting up, and everybody's bowing down to him, and he's fighting with Mordechai. Where's a miracle here? That this anti-Semite is now the most powerful person in the empire under the king. And then at the end, everything comes together. And every detail was essential. So it all worked in Teva. Everything on its own. But when you look with your Seichel, and you look at the symphony, you see there's a symphony here. From the beginning till the end, it was all woven. It was woven. It's like an arigo, it's like a beged. You take strands and you weave it together, and it's literally a one garment, and it's a beautiful piece of art. And that's what history is. So the same is true in life. You know, we look at life, it's isolated events. Today is today, tomorrow is tomorrow, Shabbos is Shabbos, Sunday is Sunday. And you have your to-do list. Today you have to go to the cleaners, you have to buy wine, you have to finish halachmanis, whatever it is. Kol chad from shura delay. By the way, the practical idea of panu elai oidev elai panim that he said before is when a person wakes up in the morning, right, and they feel that they have to eat breakfast, but they don't have the same feeling that they have to learn chassidus. That's an example of panu elai oidev elai panim. Stam, just that's how you know where the energy is. Huh? It's nicht so sharp. It's the MS. And I'm talking internally. I'm not talking what I do. I'm talking internally where I am. And not mitzad, only mitzad because it's the right thing to do. That's not what we're talking about. Mitzvahs anashim ulamada. But the person really, really knows it. I don't mean breakfast on Tainus Esther. I mean other days. So what we say? Oh, so it's all a nest, but it's melubish b'teva. It's all melubish b'teva. It's not like Kriyas Yamsuf. splitting the sea. Shagam leloya is beinus hayanid anes leinebasa. Elabayfer shanes melubish b'darkei hateva. With Kriyas Yamsuf, it's not melubish b'teva. Even without any hisbainu, you don't have to meditate. Right? Even an atheist would say this was freaky. He's not gonna attribute it to God. He's gonna say one day science will figure out how the sea split. Okay.
They had a report last week that they came up with this, that the winds were blowing the right way and the sun was shining the right way, and that
Yeah. But everybody will say this was bizarre. It was crazy. It was insane. It was a freaky event. You don't need his beinunus for that. If you want to be an action, fine, you'll be an action. But it's not an inyan of malubish. It's not malubish b'teva. But Mashenkin Purim, you need his beinunus. In other words, Purim is a debate. Purim, you have to think into it. Because every event on its own. Esther was a queen. She's Jewish. She went to her husband. She got him drunk. It's always a good thing to get your husband drunk when you want something. And she made another party. And she got him in a good moment. And we know Bechlal Achashverosh is, a pretty impulsive guy. He killed his first wife. The Gemara says, he was a hafchafan. He was a spineless guy. He killed his wife because of his friend, and then he killed his friend because of his wife. The Gemara brings up this type of guy. One day he kills his wife, the next day he kills his friend. Who is he killing next? We spoke yesterday. So Amela, the Inyan is that you have to bizich misbainen and say, 1 second. There's too many coincidences here that happened perfectly to say that this was just a blind, random event that's just part of a system, the way Teva works. So it's a nest, but it's malubish b'Teva. That's what malubish means. Malubish means it has a lavush, and you have to strip the lavush. Because if you don't strip the lavush, you could say stuck with the lavush. This is the pshat in Galus, I say, Seinu loira inu. These miracles exist every day and every hour. Ela she'enam begilui. Kanal, I say, Seinu loira inu. I know sha'oisis yeshna. Ela she'en royim oisim. You don't see them. V'tamado, why don't you see it? Lefi shechos, Sirayin Davram v'Yisrael in Yinamidis, Shehem amemutsoyim, laham shechisis galus ha'oisis. Because you're missing Avram and Yisrael. Avram lo yadanu, Yisrael lo yakran, which is the midis. They are the bridge, the memutzayim, the channels to access the hisgalus ha'osis. What's hisgalus ha'osis? Hisgalus ha'osis is the way Elikus comes into Bria, Yitzira Asiya. That's what we have to understand. Oasis here are a metaphor. Oasis are a metaphor for godliness flowing through the containers of life. Bria, Yitzira Asiya are called Oasis. Machshava, Dibur, and then Maisa. When you don't have this galus hamidis, so there's that disconnect that you don't see that response. The electricity is not flowing. No, because he explains earlier that all of Isis emerges after the seichel and then there's midis. There's a certain excitement and then the person starts thinking about it or talking about it. So in Ruchni is what that means. Spiritually what it means is, in Atzilus is pure Ein Sof. Bri Yitzira Asiya is the containers of the world, the Oisius. If there is midis, so then the Oisius flow in Bri Yitzira Asiya, which means you could see. It's like you see, there's an association, there's connection, so you're experiencing the electrical signals flowing in a very embodied way. You feel that energy, that frequency. B'shas and Golus. There's no midis anymore, there's no panu elayed of panim, so it affects Lamaila. That you don't have the memutza of midis, so the oisius remain in chachmei. So you have all the oisius. But begilui, to be able to appreciate within the containers of the world, to be able to see it on that level of as a nes, oiseisenu, the oisius and the oisis, the miracles later, What does this mean in Avodah? שאף על פי שבזמן הגולוס הנה אברהם לא ידענו וישראל לא יכירנו. שאין אצלה עדיין אבא וירא שאר ענייני המידס, מכל מקום ישנה המיילה דעתה אבינו. Even when a person is in a place and they say, I don't know Avram, I don't have a connection with Avram, I don't know Yisrael. Meaning, I don't have love, I don't have awe, and the other midas I don't have. Adayin, not yet. But the truth is, Ata Avinu, you're my father. Kivon shebechol eisu bechol sho bechol echad v'echad l'fim amadei matzav v'yeshna in the emunah pshuta. in every single person, and in every moment, and every person in whatever situation, they have a emunah pshuta. They have real trust. You have an oifen where you need to go through the whole ishtalshalus until you get to the oisius revealing themselves. This means a person's avodah is with full presence of midas. As a result of that, you create the memutza, the bridge of midas l'mayla in atzilus, and then you have the revelation face to face. As the pasuk says, the face you show to the water shows back to you. The heart that you show to the person shows back to you. So we show up with midas. Hashem shows up with midas, and there's a flow. Amnam b'shvil ze yesh tzorech b'arichas avoda dereshes arichas hazman sheyesh tzorech b'kama minei hizbeinus shayad yaveh la'ava hizbeinus shayad yaveh liyira hizbeinus shayad tiyat hizgalus shara midas. This needs all different types of hizbeinus. Hizbeinus means all different types of meditations to allow for the embodied experience. You need a hizbeinus for ava, for yira, for the other midas. Kumavor betanya she'ein yinza tali by from mamadi matzave at kama tzarich liyas etzli yigias nefesh v'yigias basar kisha ushtayim. The Rebbe says in Tanya Perek Membeis, this is changes with every person. How much yigias nefesh you need and how much yigias basar. Yigias nefesh means toil of the soul. Yigias basar is toil of the flesh. Toil of the flesh means the body needs to be in a refined place. If I'm stuffing myself, if I'm unhealthy, if I'm living unhealthy, your body is too grub to experience anything higher. It's just survival mode. Next slice of pizza, next drink, next thing. So Yigias Basar is that the Basar needs to be in shape. That's Yigias Basar. It's the discipline of your guf being a keli, a vessel, for the frequency of oneness. Yigias Nefesh is already something else. Yigias Nefesh is your mind, your imagination, your thoughts. My body can hijack me, my mind can hijack me. So Yigias Nefesh is the discipline and the ability to be able to focus in, to be able to tune in, to be able to know how to deal with all the distracting thoughts and emotions that hijack you. And the Alter Rebbe says it could take an hour or two every day to get to an emotion. Every single day. The Alter Rebbe says that you have a nefesh that's very, very edel. Umiyad yagiye elav hayira. Miyad. Takes a minute, he's there. He's going to stay. Because the guf is very, very oizgarbet, and the nefesh is oizgarbet. And this happens after a while. Things get much, much easier and faster. It's like somebody wants to run a marathon. Run the marathon today. At the end of the block, you already have to call out Salah. You go up a staircase, it's already Chevra Kadisha. And if you want a cigarette while you're running the marathon too. Mahadrim min mahadrim. So you don't start with running a marathon, right? You start with walking maybe every day for a few minutes. It builds up, and then after a while, the person is in a different shape, physically and emotionally. So this inyan of embodying seichel in a way of midas, the Alter Rebbe says it's kishah shtayim. It's not just a person sitting reading words. It's real. This is inner work. This is an inner journey. This is called integrating spiritual journeys every single day. This is not work through external stimuli. This is internal mechanisms that the person develops in order to be able to live emotionally in this space of Achdus Hashem. And this is where their excitement is. This is a very, very big avodah. Now, even if a person can do it once in a while, and a person does it once in a while, but there's so many distractions and there's so many challenges. So the Rebbe says, don't think that when this person doesn't have this, and this doesn't exist, so that's it, you're disconnected. Amnam bisman hagolus yesh gam derech ha'avodah. In Golus, in Zman habayis, there wouldn't be another alternative. This is the only alternative. That's why they went to Avodah Zarah. They needed a high. But in Zman hagolus, there's another alternative. There's avodah she'af al pi shavram lo yadanu v'Yisrael lo yakirenu. Even though I don't know Avram and I don't know Yisrael, which means midas mikol makayim harayeshna inyan hamun pshuta bekol echad v'echad misal afilu bekalsha bekalam. In every single Jew there's an amunah pshuta. Amunah pshuta means a faith that is pashut. It's simple, it's not complicated, And it's poshet, meaning it's divested, it's removed from any obstructions. It's poshet, meaning it's clear. Afilu b'kal shebakalim, even in the most lightheaded of people. They used to teach kal shebakalim is that even the kalim call him a kal. That's what a kal he is. Or maybe not. How do you know this is true? Proof is when it comes to a test that afilu kal shebakalim moisidas nafsha. So you see that often even a kal shebakalim is ready to surrender his soul. Why? Mishum sha'az ein etzlei sveikis shedavar zen negeya srirtam biskashrusi amalekus. The moment he has no doubt that this thing, staying away from it or doing it, is going to affect his entire relationship with godliness. So mibli habet al mamadi matzavi ba'ava v'yide b'limud atayra v'kiyim ha-mitzvah serei u'moisidas nafshe miyad ve'ein etzlei shum meineya u'mastid u'malig. At that moment, no matter his state of love and awe and in learning and mitzvahs, he surrenders his soul right away, and there's no blockage and there's no obstacle. And even malig. Malig means somebody to make fun. It's not negeya. One of the worst nisyonis is when people make fun. Malig. Malig is a mocker. They mock you. You know, somebody in your family, a brother, a sister, a father, a mother, a shochan, a chava, anayim eshugan in shtetl. You know, who kidnapped you? Malig is sometimes the biggest mesidas nefesh. Because it's a very deep mesidas nefesh, you know, social conformity. I want to be part of a system. I want to be part of a group. Somebody makes litzanis. It's a litzanis, you know. So all this is toifus makim until that nekuda is not touched. Once that nekuda is not touched, you just know who you are and you know who you're not. It's almost like not even a choice. It's not a shaila. You say, yesterday you were a kal shebakalim. Emes. Emes. Tomorrow I may also be a kal shebakalim. But there's certain moments that it becomes so clear who you are and who you're not, that the choice is obvious, and the choice is so powerful that the person will surrender everything not to be separated from this nekuda. ומצד עניין האמונה פשוטה שישנה בכל אחד ואחד מסתול באיזה מים מדמצב שיהיה אין צורך לעבוד את כל סדר ההשתלשלות אלא ברגע אחד יכול לספח מן הקצה לקצה. And because of this, אמונה פשוטה in every Jew, in any situation, he doesn't have to go through the whole hishtalshalos to get connected, meaning the chachma goes to seichel and to midas and to oisis, and then erst to have a relationship, and if not, I have no relationship. In one moment, there can be a metamorphosis min hakatza lakatza, from extreme to extreme. When a person is mizbainen, he meditates. Here is also a meditation, but it's a meditation that he's one with Hashem. It's the emes. Atavinu, you're my father. And you're about to do something. If what I'm about to do is not al pi Torah, and it's not consistent to the directives of Torah, so right now I'm separating myself from this oneness, from Achdus Hashem, meaning from reality. As I So in one moment, this person can transform himself from one extreme to another extreme and remain in oneness. Say, I'm not separating from oneness. What's this nekuda here? This nekuda. There's an experience of Ava V'yira where the bliss fills the entire body. And it's a gift. It's a special gift. Like the Alter Rebbe says, you need his beinunus every day, b'shah shtayim. It's literally, the bliss is not anymore from Gashmis, it's not anymore from Chumrius, it's not anymore from psychological distractions or validation or whatever people are searching for in order to give them some comfort. They're never looking for design. Their body is literally embodying the bliss of Avos Hashem. Lis'anagal Hashem. Like we say in Yedid Nefesh, Yedav lo yedidoisecha mi noifes tzuv v'chol tam. Let your friendship be sweeter for me than all the sweet honey and tasty things in the world. Poi eshiv ki v'siya. Like, here I'm going to stay because I love this. That's a very, very developed and evolved state of consciousness. So the Rebbe says that's a geula state of consciousness. Full embodiment. Full embodiment. For this, you're going through the Seder Ishtalshalos. Yeah, there's a deep connection between your brain, your nervous system, and your body. In fact, the nervous system is the bridge between the brain and the body. So that's like the bridge the hishtalshalos that you need in order to be able to bring it down all the way in the lashon of this maimon, it's into Isis. What's Isis? Isis are always containers, concrete containers. Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, and it's revealed. It's expressed cosmically that you feel the miracle. You feel. We say in davening, Moedem anachnu lach, right? Al nisecha shebechol yoyim imonan, if loisecha v'tevesecha shebechol erev aveiku v'tzarayim. It's the experience of, wow, I'm alive. I'm a channel for oneness, and to really feel it, not in the brain only like on an idea, but to experience it. It's a different experience. If you had it even once, you know exactly what it is, and there's no substitute for it. Because nothing else will compare to it. No slice of pizza, no covered you're gonna get, and even $10 million in your bank, which is a good thing, and everybody should have $10 million in their bank. And asachmer. I once told somebody should have parnasa. So he tells me parnasa is fagoyim. Ich will ashiris. Ich will nicht parnasa. Ich will ashiris. He was a Yerushalmi. He says parnasa is fagoyim. Ich will ashiris. But and it's good because money is very important. The main kamach obviously, but the tainug, when you're experiencing a lakus, there's no substitute for it because it's the only real thing. Everything else is fake news. Falsche fish, and you're going to need another substitute. And that's true with everything like that. Either it's b'chol drechecha deyu or not. That's a geula consciousness. But now he's saying in this man hagalus, I say seinu loida inu, there are interruptions in ishtalshalos. So the whole inyan here of the Maimon is saying, don't for a second think that now you're just dysfunctional and, as you say, traumatized and disassociated and not emotional and you just become a robot. No. Now there's a very deep chin. Avram lo yadanu, Yisrael lo yakirenu. And that itself is such a powerful awareness to be able to say. It takes guts to say, Avram, I don't know you. Yisrael, I don't know you. But ki ata avinu. You still have a father. What's that you still have a father? That's chachma shebenefesh. The emunah pshuta that the soul has, that it knows what is true and what is not true, and that it's completely one with Ein Sof, he says that's not shaykh to change ever. Even in a Kal Shabakalim, who yesterday behaved in a completely dysfunctional way. Now, there's still a big avodah here to believe that, to get in touch with that. Because all our wounding, all our hijackers don't want us to know about Chachma Shebenefesh. They can't hijack it, but they don't want you to know about it. Because when you know about it, it's checkmate. So this is not, he's saying, Ki ata avinu is the avodah of believing Ki ata avinu. It's there. But my point is, when he's saying in Golut, it's not that there's no avodah here. It's a very deep avodah, but the point is that it's an avodah that's available every moment of the day. That's his point. He's not saying you can't be a couch potato on my phone. I have a munah pshuta. That's a joke. You have a munah pshuta, but to connect to a munah pshuta, so he says she is baina, right? I'm just saying that because you can learn the maim if you want to experience what he's saying. It's not do nothing. It's galus. It's fine. You have a munah pshuta. You have a munah pshuta, but as he puts it, she is baina. Right, what's his lashon is? The hijackers don't want you to know that. Klippa doesn't want you to know that. It says you're not one, you're disassociated, you're disconnected, you're either a meshuggah or a loser. An ox noch besser. So when the person could really become aware of this, that this is who I am, and in my deepest core, there's only one thing I want: dveikus with Hashem. And all the machshavas could say a billion messages, but they're all depicting fake news and fake reality. So they're powerful. And I may not be able to get rid of them by embodying the bliss. I may not be able to. But I have a choice every moment. Right now, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to think, and what am I going to say? Am I going to continue? Am I going to live in this place of Achdus Hashem, of reality of Einoid Mulvadai? Or I have a choice to detach from it, to separate from it. That's Kiyata Avinu. So in any moment, the person, he says, could change themselves, min hakotza el hakotza, and to be one, even in a revealed way. There's a bunch of hijackers running around in my heart and my brain. Okay, look at them and say, Shalom Aleichem. like you do by Kiddush Levana. Shalom aleichem, aleichem shalom, shalom aleichem, aleichem shalom, shalom aleichem, aleichem shalom. Let's go back to the program. David Malach Yisrael Chai V'Kayam. You know what it's like when you're talking about computers. You're on a computer, you're doing something important, and there's a pop-up. What do you do with the pop-up? The worst thing you could do, you're eligible to win $3 million. You know the pop-ups? So the first 2 times I clicked on it, I wanted $3 million. And then once you click on it, 2 million pop-ups, right? And 20 minutes later, there's like a virus in your whole computer, So we have pop-ups, okay. So it's X, 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 or just ignore. But the point here is that even without the whole Seder Ishtalshalos, this is available for a person every single moment in a very, very deep Pnimi is the Kawei Mitzad Emunah Pshuta that could never ever be compromised. And then something else happens. And from this, what then happens is the person could reach a place where there'll be love and awe. But the difference is, it didn't start from below, it started from above. It starts off from Ki'ata Avinu, meaning it starts off from the top, from Chachma. And you bring the Emunah Pshuta into the 3 garments of your soul. And then you come to Ava V'yira. And then the Isis will be revealed. And then it's like this Man HaBayis where there's the connection of davening and being responded to. So in other words, the 3 Levushei HaNefesh, which is Machshava, Dibura Maisa, that's like similar to Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. So usually we're saying in Zman HaBayis, you go through Chachma, all the way to Ava V'yira, and then you come into Machshava Dibura Maisa. Your thoughts, your words, and your behaviors are a manifestation of your love, of your awe. And that's the classic of Isis coming afterwards. When you're passionate about something, that's what you think about. That's what you talk to people about. That's what your Maisa is. That's the functional association where there's a flow. In Galus, suddenly the whole bridge of Midas is gone. People are not feeling. That's what's happening. They're learning. You see, this is the map of reality. We're learning, but they're not feeling anything. And they're not. And sometimes we're feeling so little, we make believe that we're feeling because we don't want to be desperate and say we're not feeling. So we create fake emotions, fake simulations, fake hisayrus. Just give me any feeling. Everybody knows they go home, sepustunvist. My life, my life. Give me a high, anything. Sell me whatever you want. Give me something. Because people starve for emotional embodiment in their marriages, in their relationship with their kids, in their relationship with themselves, their relationship with Yiddishkeit, their relationship with God, their relationship with life. He's not saying not. He's Avada.
Where does it start? So we start with Ravino. This piece should have been the first piece out.
So usually the levushim should follow the emotions. That's how it works. You have emotional embodiment, and then automatically, this is where you live, this is what you talk about, this is what you think about, this is what you're doing. There comes a point where there's an interruption. There's an interruption of the midas. So here it's dangerous because the person could become completely disassociated and disconnected. So the Rebbe is giving the map for healing. The map for healing is you have to know one thing. There was no this is very practical. It would be very good, every day to have Ava V'yira. But even to get to that place, what does Golus here represents an internal condition where a person doesn't have that flow. It takes a lot of work to find this flow. And you have to understand in people's lives, especially, if there was wounds that developed, and who doesn't have, where there is betrayal, and it causes us to numb our emotions and disassociate and not trust and disconnect. So suddenly when you're going to daven, you think all the wires are going to be reconnected. This is how I operate. This one numbs everything. This one has to be dishonest. This one can't look at themselves. This one doesn't know how to feel. This one is just lives superficially. This one is busy pleasing people. This one is being aggressive. This one doesn't have time to think. Whatever. This one is a dead man walking. This one is whatever. Every person in their own way. It's called coping mechanisms. And the coping mechanisms become so powerful that, just like he says with Nissim, it looks like Teva. So the opposite, L'Uma says, our coping mechanisms look functional. That becomes a substitute for Ava V'yira. I'm so desperate for Ava V'yira, I'll take anything. I'll call Cholent Ava V'yira. If you want, I'll call my kugel out. Just give me Ava V'yira. And it's not in judgment. It's just a situation where there's disalignment, where there's an inyan of galus. So how do you begin to fix it? So he says, don't give up on yourself because you're not feeling fully. It's not going to work that way. You go right away to K'ata Avinu. K'ata Avinu means you have to know 1,000% that the core of your soul is as healthy as can be. No event and experience in the world can snuff out the core dveikus and amunah that the neshama has, that it's a chelik elokam imal mamash. Nothing. You'll say, but I'm a kalsha b'kalim and this happened, that. Yeah, got it. So the challenge is the hishtalshalos. The flow is missing. Yeah. Consciously, there's no flow. There's no energetic flow. But don't doubt for a moment that at the core, you're completely connected and aligned. Not only that, you're ready to die for that. It's not just a nice thing. Yeah, you have a pintul yid, you're a cute guy. You know, Yom Kippur, you're a nice guy. Purim, if you're drunk a little, you'll give me a kiss. This is so real, you're ready to die for it. If you listen to the stories of the hostages now coming out, Eina. All secular, completely secular atheistic families. One by one. Every single one of them. Nothing is al pi seichel. People living in America and Archava, whoever has these experiences, they're in the Gehenim of Gehenim. This one is looking to make brachas. This one started to keep Shabbos. Some of these crazy stories. The answer is takanat al pi seichel. It's not a philosophical thing. It's completely. This is mamish what he's talking about. In moments of clarity where there's no blockages whatsoever. Hayolisia, what they went through, where everything is taken, they have nothing left. Not a body and not safety, not life, nothing. I mean, we can't even imagine, right? And suddenly, what would come out? You would think bitterness would come out. Yiyush would come out. What came out? It's a crazy, insane emunah pshuta. Sometimes it happens, one person, you say, tzaddik nister somewhere. One person after another person after another person. You heard there was a hostage yesterday, he said, Hamas blindfolded them, and they schlepped them, so they thought, maybe they're being shot. They blindfolded, they don't see, so they thought, whatever, they're being shot, who knows what they're doing to them. And with them, the achzariyus is also not incomprehensible. He was there with his friend, so they decided they're going to sing Shir HaMalas B'Shuv Hashem Shiva Siyana Yina Kechelma. In front of Khan, they start singing Shir HaMalas, because that song they knew. Secular Israelis, Shir HaMalas B'Shuv Hashem Shiva. And he says to us, why'd you do it? They could shoot you. He says, I don't know, it's just what we wanted to do. And Lepoyel, a few minutes later, and they released them. They were taking them to be released. But they were blindfolded. So in front of the Hamas, you want to impress your murderers. You don't want to make a ruckus. Yeah, you don't want them to get angry at you. I don't think these things are al pi seichel. Once this nakuda comes out, you know who you are. You know who you're not. It's not even called. It's not even called. It's hard to say this, but that's what Alter Rebbe is saying in Tanya. It's not really called death. In Chachma Shebenefesh, you know that you're not dying. Imagine you felt yourself as part of Ein Sof. You're not dying. There's no such a thing. When you're infinity, you're not dying. The guf is precious, but it's a container. There's no death. In that space, it's not called death. It's in fact, everything else is called death. To separate yourself from that is death. Everything else is life. So the Mesiras Nefesh is organic. This is the state of every single person. It's the state of every single person. All the wounds that we have in our life can only eclipse this. And all the blessings we have in our life can sometimes even more eclipse this. Because sometimes the wounds actually open you up to this. And we talk about abandonment wound. The deepest abandonment wound is this wound that the soul really misses Hashem. So the moment the Jew realizes this, he says, now every single moment you have a choice from Achshava, Dibra, Maisa, if you're going to go into oneness, or you're going to go away from oneness. And you're not using the whole Seder Ishtalshalos. You went from Chachma straight to Isis. Because all the Isis are in Chachma. Everything is there. Right. In Gullus, we don't always have the luxury and the time and the functionality. And sometimes the wounds are very deep. And if you wait for that full embodiment, and without that you feel like a failure, you're never going to get to Isis. You won't have Machshava, you won't have Dibur Maisa. And that's what happens to people. They're not having that full experience, they give up on themselves. They try to fake it for a while, and then either they become cynical or disillusioned or whatever. Everybody chooses their alternative paths. Because there's a lot of pain, there's desperation, there's pain. What the Rebbe is saying here is, I'm giving you a real path. And this, he says, from this you'll come to Avavir also. But it's going to be Momaila Lamata, not Momata Lamaila. The healing won't be from bottom to top, it's going to be from top to bottom. There's healing from bottom to top. You deal with the infections and you go higher and higher, like layers of onions, and then you get Lamaila. That's Momata Lamaila. It's a beautiful way, but you can get stuck over there because there's a lot of infections. Momaila Lamata is you tap in to that place of oneness, it fills you, but now, from there, you could start an inyan of Avavira, which is already an embodied emotion. Because once that frequency is so clear for you, now you could look at the coping mechanisms and say you got nothing to offer. So now you could fill yourself with Avavira too. To start with Avavira, you're not going to get there because there's so many blockages. You can get very easily stuck. So he says start with Kiyata Avinu. And then slowly, once you'll see that all these other stuff are just very, very external. And then you could do the inner work, which allows you to be embodied with Avavira. But if you don't start with Kiyata Avinu, you can get very easily stuck. I'm feeling, I'm not feeling, I am feeling, I'm almost feeling, I was feeling, I'm going to be feeling tomorrow. Huh? The blockages can't take away Kiyata Avinu. It could be asleep. I don't have a relationship with it consciously, but nothing can happen to it. It's as pure as sugar. It's as pure as sunlight. In other words, the moment it comes out, it's not even a shaila. Yeah, you go all the way from the inside. Yeah. Okay, let's just finish fast because now he comes back to the beginning of the Maimer. Al Pisa Yivan Mashamar Razal Kol Amaydim Asidim Libotel Chutz Mimei HaPurim. We started off the whole Maimer. The Medrash says all the Yomim Tovim are going to be nullified besides Purim. Now we'll understand what it means. The Hine Inyan Amayadim Kosherim Inyan Amidis Shezau Inyanam Shel Gimel Avis. Kedisa BeMedrash Chag HaMatzos Hu Keneged Avram Shena Amar Mari Shlosh Siyim Kemach Seilis Lushiva Si Uges Kivin Shepesachaya. Shavuos Hu Keneged Yitzchak V'Sukkos Hu Keneged Yaakov D'Ksiv B'Yaakov Nasa Sukkaisa. It's fascinating. The three Yomim Tovim are connected to the three Avos. The Medrash says that Matzah is Keneged Avram. He tells Sarah when the angels come, right? Go fast, prepare Soilus, and then it says Lot also gave them Matzahs because it was Pesach. Shavuos, which says V'cholam Roim Es HaKoilas V'Eskol HaPidim Eskol HaShofar. It says the shofar was taken from the horn of the ram of Yitzchak. And Yaakov Nasa Sukkaisa is connected to Sukkos. So the three Moyadim is the embodied emotions of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Amnon. Oh, Sidlavi Shiyu Gilim Lamayla Meseder Aishtal Shalos. Azaloi Yitzayich Bama Mutza de Mid. Shenyanam Latzam Tamalam Shechas Kala Yanam Midavag Bala de Seder Aishtal Shalos. Sharela O Sidlavi Ksi Vila Yikonef Eid Merecha Vayu Einecha Rayusis Merecha. Shasti Yaklolos Aveda by Fun Shari'iyah. She b'chinas chachmei law v'achati yiriyas alakus afilu bein basik amasher kosav ki ayin bayin yiru v'lachein yizbatlu os kol inyani amim mutzayim hakshurim b'chinas hamidis shebepratis hem inyani amayedim de pesach shvuos v'sukas shiyu kishraga betira legabe hagilid lo yikana fed merach. Mashiach comes, the giluyim are going to be from beyond hishtalshalos, beyond the whole seder hishtalshalos. The whole inyan of midis is to channel. Like we spoke about the interface, it's to channel the revelations, that it should come into a midah and agbala, which is Isis. That's the union of midas. La'asid Lavi, it says your eyes will see your teacher. In other words, everything is going to be an ifan of re'iyah, which is chachmei law. And with your eyes of flesh, you're going to experience godliness. So all the mutzayim of midas, which is Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, are going to be like a candle in midday. Mashen k'nayam tevdi mea Purim shaya bizman agalos kasher Avram lo yadanu v'Yisrael lo yakirenu harei oz haya nes mitzadein deki ata avinu haynu shebnei Yisrael amdu b'mesidas nefesh u'b'emunah pshuta b'meshech kimat kol hashana v'lo ol alev echad mem shum machshavas chutz v'haynu she'av shaya b'nei mikol hasugim v'chol minim amadim matzavim kele gam eile shenenu misidasi shel achashverosh eile she'ishtachavu l'tzelem kadeiz b'zeh b'gemara mikol makom amdu kulam b'tnuah shel emunah pshuta b'mesidas nefesh. Purim is different. Purim happened in Galus. There was no consciousness. It was a time of Haster Aster. Avram lo yadanu v'Yisrael lo yakirenu. What created the ness of Purim? Ki ata avinu. Meaning, a whole year. Remember, from the Gzeira till the ness of Purim lasted a whole year, from Yud Gimel Nisan to Yud Gimel Adar. And if somebody would say, I'm not a Yehudi, there would be no Gzeira on him. So he says, but a whole year they stood with this emunah and Pesidus Nefesh, and not one Jew experienced a machshavas chutz, a machshava to go outside. It's an interesting thing. This is the Alter Rebbe says in Torah, and one of the Maimarim in Purim, that for a whole year, it's an interesting thing. I said in one of the shurim when we learned it, how did the Alter Rebbe know that not one Jew had a machshavas chutz? I never saw a medrash like that. I don't, maybe there is. I never saw a medrash or a Gemara. But Alter Rebbe writes in Torah that a whole year, machshavas chutz. It's an interesting thing. I guess when you're on a shama vatzilis, you know machshavas. If everybody's machshava affects the whole system, so when you're on a shama vatzilis, you could feel everybody's machshava. That's my only explanation. Not out of fear, out of Mesidas Nefesh. The easiest thing would be, don't be a Jew. Don't be a Yehudi. Yeah, that I don't know. It could be. I never heard that. Yeah, it's interesting. No, I know that. The Rebbe says this a lot. That also machshavas chutz. So he says, what's the chiddush? You had Jews from many sugim. You have those who went to the meal and enjoyed the meal, and those who bowed to the tzelem. The Gemara gives different shittas of why the Gzeira happened. But everybody was in a tnuah of emunah and mesidas nefesh. V'lechein nikru b'megillah b'shem Yehudim dafka. Hein ela shayim b'shevet Yehuda v'ein ela shayim b'shara shvatim ki Yehudi yu shekefer b'aveda zara. Al shem shekefer b'aveda zara shekol hakefer b'kameida b'chol ha'teira kula v'kiven shekol b'nei Yisrael amdu az b'tnuah zu lechein nikru kulam b'shem Yehudim. The first place we're called Yehudim is in Megillah Esther. Why is everybody called Yehudi? Mordechai came from Shevet Binyamin. Other people came from other Shvatim. There weren't only Shevet Yehuda Jews. The answer is because that's when they became Yehudim. What's a Yehudi? A Yehudi is Emunah Pshuta. Kaifer b'Avodah Zarah. The Gemara says he denies Avodah Zarah and he's Maida b'Chol HaTorah Kula. When you deny Avodah Zarah, it's like you're Maida in the whole Torah. That moment, the Jews reached the place of Ki'ata Avinu, which is Yehudi. This Nekuda of Yehudi came out on Purim. It didn't come out before. Fakert, before that, they're called Bnei Yisrael. That's the whole Geshmak here. Before that, in Tanakh, they're called Bnei Yisrael. Here, we say Yisrael lo yakirenu. I don't know Yisrael. Ki'ata Avinu. That's Yehudi. How did they reach the space? For this, you need Mordechai. Mordechai is called Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shoshan Abira. What's Pshat Ish Yehudi? Shepirusha is Sar Shel Pchinas Yehudi, Kama Ish Harabayis, Shepirusha Sar Harabayis, Kama Ishi Kain Gadol, Shalosh and Gadlus Ushrada. V'hainu Shemordechai Shaya Neshama HaKlal Shabayis Yador, Kedisa B'Medrash Mordechai B'Dori Kama Ish B'Dori, Kibbutz is called B'nei Yisrael La'achdos HaMitis, O Paul Etzlom B'Gali Sham Dem Mesidas Nefesh Meshach Chol HaShana Kula, Shetiya Etzlom HaKfira B'Aveda Zara V'Ayda B'Chol HaTorah Kula. It says about Mordechai Ish Yehudi. What's Pshat Ish Yehudi? Literally, a man who was a Yehudi. He says that's not the Pshat. The Mishnah in Maseches Midah speaks about Ish Harabayis. What's Ish Harabayis? Like you say, the man of the house, the man of the Temple Mount, the one who was the Sar. He was in charge on the Harabayis. They would say Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, Ishi Kohen Gadol, the night of Yom Kippur. What's Ishi Kohen Gadol? It's a lashon of Sar, godless. So Ish Yehudi, he teaches. Mordechai was a balabas on the Bechina of Yehudi. What does it mean he's a balabas on the Bechina of Yehudi? The pshat is he can tap in He was connected to that element, to that frequency in every Jew. He was a Sar of Yehudi. He was a master of the Inyan of Yehudi. So he says he was the neshama klalis, the collective neshama of that generation that brought out in every single Jew the Yehudi in him. Like the master key to that nekuda in the Jew. When you were in the presence of Mordechai, and you had a connection to Mordechai, you saw that in yourself. That's Pshat Ish Yehudi. He was a balabas, he was a Sar on the Inyan of Yehudi. This was his world, this was his connection. This is where he lived, and this is what he saw in every person. So he brought this out. And this was a whole year, and a year comes from the word shinui, so that means this achdus they brought into all the shinuyim and zman, so everything is b'diuk. The fact that this was a shana shleima means that this level of unity permeated every type of day, every type of change. So that means it's a unity that doesn't only exist in certain times. It permeates everything. Mashen kin yemei Purim shebam nam de bnei Yisrael lamata betnot shel mesiras nefesh b'poil. Sheila ma'ila memedid v'agbala. V'aydezim shichol ma'ila b'chinas kiyata v'inu shel ma'ila hein me'avram v'hein me'Yisrael. Inyan zela yizbat la'filu la'asid lovei kivin shezau teichen inyan shel agiluyim la'asid lovei. So this is the Vart. Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot are all giluyim through hishtalshalos. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, which is amazing. That's the embodied revelation, Atzilus, which goes to Bria, Yitzira, Asiyah. Well, the Asid Love, when there's a Gili of Ein Soif, pre-Tzimtzum, in Sfiris, everything is going to be Siyan, Chachma. Be'ein Agashmi, you're going to see that when you see something, it's instantaneous. You know, like you see a house, you see a piece of art, you see the whole thing right away. That's Chachma. Boom. So the Mayadim will be there, but they're going to be like a candle in the middle of the day. Lagabi, the Gili of Ein Soif, it's going to eclipse the Koyach of the Mayadim. But Purim is the frequency of Mashiach, because Purim came because of the Yerida, because Purim is in a time of Golus, where there's no Midah, so that challenges you to go back to the source. So paradoxically, even when Mashiach comes, Purim is going to shine, because Purim is the same frequency of the Giluyim of Mashiach, which is Lamayla Mishtalshalos. So here we're learning something very powerful. When we look at all, when you're talking avodah, when you look at all the dysfunctionality of people emotionally, so that's the pchina of Purim, haster aster. So this is an opportunity to go to l'mayla meishtalshalos. That's the only way you're going to do it. You have to go ki ata avinu. You have to go mamish to the core of the core, because over there you're intact. If everything is flowing well, you could work with the shtalshalos. The system works for you. If the system works for you, gewaldik. When the system is broken, so now you have to go to a place where the system wasn't broken, because it's beyond the system. So you got to go to Ki'at Avinu without Avram and Yisrael. That's the B'china of Purim. They went straight to Chachma, and that's where they found the Isis. Like he said before, it's the Amunah Pshuta of Achdus Hashem with Mesidas Nefesh. That's where the person lives in Machshava Dibura Ma'aseh, even before they have all the Midas. They're completely in a place of oneness. And this is the Nechama in a time of Hester. Sometimes people think that if they're not embodying people who do serious work, one of the most torturous things is they're not embodying emotions, and they feel very, very disconnected. So the Rebbe said it's a shtus gadol. You remember how we started this piece? It's a shtus gadol that you feel disconnected. Why? You feel disconnected, but it's not shaykh to your connection. It's your hijackers that are not letting you feel okay. So your hishtalshalus has brokenness. Welcome to the club. Thank you. You're in Galus. Thank you. You and Columbus discovered America. Okay. Yeah, the wires are somebody tampered with the wires. We know that. The whole world was destroyed. Yeah. The connection was destroyed. Nobody knows the connection anymore. What's the shtus? The shtus is that you're going to become depressed. Like he said in the beginning. Because becoming depressed, this means you just surrender to them. Don't get depressed. Realize, now, Atavinu doesn't change. In other words, you were never abandoned. What's Prat Ki Atavinu? Atavinu means you always have a father and a mother. The worst thing is when people are abandoned. The abandonment wound is the core of all the wounds. Spiritually, it's the core of all the wounds. The neshama feels separate. There's no such a thing. It never happened. It never will happen. How much I'm feeling of it, that depends on every person. Like he says, you have to work hours every day sometimes. From that space, which is l'mayla me'ishtalshlus chachma, over there you'll find all the isis, even if it's not begilui. And that's the b'china of Purim. And that's why Purim is going to be also when Mashiach comes, because that is the gilui of l'asid love. ומטעם זה גם בזמן הזה, בזמן הגולס, יש חלק בין שמחת ימים טובים לשמחת דמי הפורים. ששמחת הימים טובים כיוון שינו המשך בסדר השתלשלוס, לכן יש כמה מדידות והגבלות באופן השמחה שלא ימשך ביין. מה שאין כן ימי הפורים ימי יוסף מותרם בעשיית מלאכה והם ימי חיל, הרי דווקא בהם חייב איניש לבסומה. עד לא ידע שהשמחה צריכה להיות למעלה משכל ודעת שבגלוי, והיינו לפי שבשעס הגזירה עמדו בתנועה כזו, ולכן היסה גם הכאולה באופן כזה שקשור מבחינה של למעלה מכל סדר ההשתלשלוס. So that's why the simcha of Purim is different than other Yamim Tovim. Other Yamim Tovim, it's a flow through the system of Ishtalshalus, through the cosmic spiritual system, so the simcha has to be limited. The Bezdin used to send out shluchim that people shouldn't be frivolous and drink too much. Purim, on one hand, it's a mundane day. It's not even a Yom Tov. You're allowed to do malacha on Purim. I don't understand. If Purim is higher than the Yom Tov, we shouldn't work. He says, no, how about Talia? Purim is the mundane day. There's no Giluyim in Purim. We are the Midas. You know, people wait for all the Giluyim on Purim. The Rebbe says, no, that the whole union of Purim is Kiyata Avinu. That's just kein Giluyim. Pshendarten, yeah, you don't need Giluyim. Fakir, the Giluyim will follow. The Giluyim. People wait Purim for somebody to put them in a Purim de Kamud. Zog ben avart. Stop with your Vertlach. Here, willst avart? Oh, stavart. Kiyata. So he says, Purim on one hand, you're allowed to work. So that means it's a very mundane day. It's not a holy day. Shabbos you don't work. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, it's hechet a tag. It's higher days. Purim is not. And yet, Adaloyad, it's the deepest simcha. He says it's Haba Hatalia. That's the Vart. Purim was a time of Golus. It's not like the other. It's a time, therefore, it's Yimei Chai. In other words, the Oisias are not Begalui. Oisias Seno Loira Inu. It's not coming out in the channels of the physical world. It's a Nes, Melubish, Beteva. The Bri, Yitzir, Asiya are not manifesting the Atzilus. In simple words, it means there's a disassociation. But what happened then? They went to a place that's deeper than Ishtalshalus. How do you do that? That's Adalayada. Adalayada, people think Adalayada is a halacha, that you have to drink on Purim until you lose your mind. No, it's not. That's what Purim is. Purim is Adalayada before you drink. The problem with Purim is people think that Adalayada is after you drink. No, you drink to feel the Adalayada of Purim. If you're drinking to get Adalayada, you missed the whole boat. They're drinking to get Adalayada. So now stop, you're looking for hijackers. You drink to experience the Purim Adalayada, not to get Adalayada, but Shein Adalayada. Huh? But Purim, that's the B'chin of Purim. That's what he says. And the reason is because the Gzeira they were in Adalayada. B'shaz the Gzeira they were in Adalayada. By the Gzeira they were in a place of Adalayada. But Mela the Gula was Adalayada. The Adalayada didn't start in the drinking. It started in the Tnuah of Yidden. It was the B'chin of Adalayada. Why? Because what's Adalayada? Higher than Das, higher than Seichel. Because Chacham is, like we learned before, it comes from Kadmus HaSeichel. It comes from the superconscious. It's not about Seichel. If you're going to want to figure your life out, I'll be Seichel, good luck. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Because it's not Al Pi Seichel. The Neshama doesn't have to, like I told you, the Rebbe once said on a Purim Fabreng, and I always say it, but he said it on Purim, Tov Shalom Aleph, that the relationship between a parent and a child, between a mother and a child, a father and a child, the relationship between, he said just beautiful words. He said the relationship, you can explain it Al Pi Seichel. You could say that a parent loves a child, and because you're my Yodesh, you're my Kaddish, you're my extension, you give me nachas, you're cute, you come from me, you're my biology, you come from me. A child loves a parent, it says in Sefer HaChinuch, you gave me food, you gave me shelter, you gave me milk, it's Alts Emes. He said, it's Alts Emes, Alts Seichel Dika reasons why you should love and respect your father and mother, no question. He said, he said, "Seshep nicht ois." It doesn't, zalom matzeh. It doesn't capture, doesn't encapsulate the oimek hakesher. He said, and the oimek hakesher, the depth of the kesher, yeah. Nicht me kennes verstehen, nicht me darf es verstehen, nicht me will es verstehen. You can't understand it because seichel doesn't have the keli for it. Seichel is limited. You don't need to understand it. In other words, it's not going to help you. Okay, now I have a seichel. You're taking your daughter to your chuppah, and she says, explain to me, I'll be seichel, why you should, whatever. Prove with the DNA that you're my father. Okay, well, prove it. That's going to help you. I never saw a child who has issues with their parent, and if you prove them the DNA that you're there, no, everything is fine.
That was the problem.
Okay, prove it up, he said. He said, you can't understand it, you don't even want to understand it. Why don't you want to understand it? Because it undermines it. You're taking away. You want to understand away. You want to take something infinite and put it into a box. I'm giving you something infinite. So you say, no, put it in my wallet. Fine. So that's the word, that's adolayada. It's a different b'china. You don't need seichel for this. Seichel is only a tool for good things. But over here, it's just mavalba. We could finish the last paragraph. Let's finish the last paragraph. So now back to the beginning of the Maimer, you remember? He asked if Haman was going on four things. Mila and Tefillin also. Why is the Purim we only celebrate the first two? Oida and Simcha. He says because those two things till then were limited. Because the whole Torah till Purim was limited. Because the Gemara says in Shabbos that the mountain was put over their head and they were forced. And therefore, if somebody demands from the Jews, why didn't you keep something? They could say, we didn't really want it. So he says, what does this really mean? It means that a person could say, this is shaykh to me. This inyan is not shaykh to me. And therefore, if I'm not being forced, onus means it's like a metaphor. When somebody is forced into something, so even if they're doing everything, it means the moment I won't be forced, I won't do it. So the hergish is, it's a hergish. The hergish is that it's a relationship where I could say, this is connected to me, this is not connected to me. This aspect of Torah I embrace, this aspect of Torah I don't embrace. Why? Because it's not really me, it was forced. So even if I have to do everything, but I have to do everything. So the whole Torah was b'medid of Hagbala. It's like a business transaction. So Purim, a whole different Torah was experienced. The Torah of Atzmius. Not this is shaykh to me, this is not shaykh to me. This is your whole Metzius. This is your whole essence. It's a whole different Simcha in Torah. Al derech ze binyan Simcha ze yamtiv shalom do mashakaz v'samachta b'chagecha kechiv do samachta b'chagecha b'medid of Hagbala kivin shaya ze kiyam kaidam amadam mayim dematzav sheb'mei Purim. Ubinyan ze nitayis of lachri sham do b'nisayt. Lachri shayis yisayid is to b'shapal etzel kol b'nei Yisrael hein ele shashayachim lavayda vein ele shenim shayachim lavayda hein ele shashayachim lavayda shal pitam v'das vein ele shayachim lavayda shalei al pitam v'das shalei b'avayda al shalei al pitam v'das gufi yeshna inyan shal avayda shemezgala leitam v'das aval b'yis shana amdu kulam b'shava b'mesiris nefesh al yemechanam l'msir nafshem b'poyel sheza winyan shalamayla mitam v'das legamri b'li chayfetz v'ratzin klal. The same is true in Yom Tov. The Simcha of Yom Tov was limited because it was before Purim. After Purim, when they went through the whole Nisayah, and you had the Yisraelis Tshuva on all Jews. Jews that were Shaykh Ta'avoida, Jews that are not Shaykh Ta'avoida. Jews that are Shaykh Ta'avoida, Dafka with Seichel, Jews that are Shaykh Ta'avoida, not Shaykh Ta'avoida, that are Shaykh Ta'avoida beyond Seichel. Because even in the Avoida, Shalei al Pi Tam V'das, there's an element by some people that could come through Tam V'das. So he's saying the Chiddush of Purim was that there was a language that was developed that it could encompass every single Jew. Because there's really different types of people. We stay comfortable with people who fit our orbit. But Mordechai doesn't look at it that way. So Mordechai says there's Jews that are shaykh to avoid, Jews that are not shaykh to avoid, Jews that get touched, Jews that don't, Jews that are shaykh to tam v'das. All these things, this is all real differences. But Purim touched them all. It touched the nekuda where there's no such a thing, you don't belong. When you talk in levels of ishtalshalus, you're shaykh to this, I'm shaykh to this. There's people you connect to, there's people you don't connect to. There's no such a mitzvah that Mordechai doesn't connect to somebody. On every level besides Yichidish Benefesh, Chachmash Benefesh, there's things you don't connect to. Because there's different trees, there's different plants, there's different types of people. Everyone has their frequency. Yeah. But Haman wanted to kill everybody because he was typhus, that there's a nekuda where the Kalsha B'Kalim and the Gadol Hadar are identical. Haman felt it. So Mordechai understood if we're not going to go into that space, it's kinderspiel. We're in a sandbox. We're not on the level where Haman is. You understand? It's a very, very deep Indian, this. Haman showed that there's a consciousness here that's not shaykh to diversity. It's not you, lemigadol vat katan. Mamish. Yeah, Ayid is Ayid. So Mordechai went into the same nekuda. It was the same nekuda, that was Nizgala. This is Lamayla Mitam Vedas. It's not all the chilukim of this type, that type, avoid, not avoid, you're this, you're an intellectual, you're an emotional, you're a spiritualist, you're an ascetic, you're a parush, you're a gashmi, you're a chumri, you're an edele, you're an atzilis, you're an asiyah. Alts good cheshboinus when you're talking in ishtalshalos. But here was a nekud of adalayada, which Mordechai taps into because that's where he lives. That's where Mordechai lives. That's the neshama klolos. The neshama klolos of a generation never sees differences. He sees differences, but the differences don't take away this nekuda, and he never gets distracted with this nekuda. You always remain on this nekuda pnimis of adalayada. Okay, mavur b'chsidus explains shazel in yana ava demili b'shamayim v'imchalei chafatzti baretz. The love that it says in Tehillim. Who do I have in heaven, and with you I desire nobody on earth. Or move al zamayim rabbeinu azakim b'shaz dveikusay. So Tzemach Tzedek brings that the Alter Rebbe, when he was to be in a dveikus, he used to say, Ich will ze garnist. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, ich will nicht dein Olam Haba, ich will mehr nicht as dich allein. This is the experience of this inyan. This is it. In Avodah, this is the inyan what the Alter Rebbe used to say. Mili b'shamayim imchalei chafatzti baretz. Who do I have in heaven, and with you I desire nothing on earth. So the Alter Rebbe used to say, he wasn't talking about heaven and earth, only the physical heaven and earth. I don't want your Gan Eden, I don't want your Olam Haba, I want you. What does this mean? What's Gan Eden? What's Olam Haba? Gan Eden and Olam Haba are all Giluyim of Elikus. They're not there. They're beautiful places. It's Ziv HaShchina. But he said, Ich will mer nit as dich allein. In other words, even this, Kavayachal, could be a little distraction. What do we mean a distraction? It's an element. I want Gan Eden. I want Olam Haba. I want to feel it. I want the experience. I want the oneness. I want the geschmack. The inyan of Purim was, in Avodah, the inyan of Purim is dich allein. Not Avram, not Yisrael, ki ata avinu. I want you. Why do I want you? Because that's who I am. It doesn't make sense. Okay, thank you. Skerecht. Seichel was created afterwards. It's not, Seichel is not going to define it. So the Ich will menish das dich allein is the deepest space of oneness where there's no cheshbon. And this is not shaykh to one person more than another person. The difference is you have your part in Gan Eden, I have my part in Gan Eden. But dich alein, that's already adalayada. For this you surrender everything. All I want is you. And you and only you, nothing else. So the Rebbe says this dveikus that the Alter Rebbe used to have during davening, this was the matzav that all the Jews experienced that. And even the lowest person experienced it. Why? Because here it's not higher and lower. The moment this gets nisgala, so you know less than the Alter Rebbe? I know you know less than the Alter Rebbe. You feel less. You're not as edel. Hey, you're right. You could be a kalsha b'kalim, ain't a chanami. But this is not a nekuda that you created because of your genius or your IQ or your EQ. This is the Ein Sof in the Jew. This is what Haman saw. This is what Hitler sees. This is what Hamas sees. So this is no difference a kalsha b'kalim or not. So therefore the Geula was in a transformation. The same Apesha also, the same mouth that made the Gzeira, Achashverosh, he nullified it. And he said that the Jews should rule over their enemies. It wasn't just you went away from the darkness. The darkness was transformed. That's the Chiddush here. The darkness itself was transformed. So when they wanted to make the joy of Purim, it's not a joy that's limited, it's a joy that's unlimited. So both in Eire, Zutayra, and Simcha, Zeyamtiv, this is where you saw the Chiddush of Purim. This is the union of Chayiv, Inish, Lebesumim, Bepuraya, Adaloyada, that a person is obligated to be inebriated on Purim, Adaloyada, until he doesn't know. Freilich in Purim. And a Freilich in Adaloyada. Very good.